Hey, SpeakEasy Podcast listeners. Altovise Felder here, your host of the hashtag SpeakEasy Podcast. And I'm laughing for good reason, guys. Y'all know me and SEO was never friends in the beginning of this entrepreneurial journey. If you have not heard, if this is your first time listening to one of my episodes, welcome. Welcome, friend. Welcome to the community. But me and search engine optimization were not a thing. There was no connection for me because you would hear people speaking about it, but when they opened their mouth to talk about it, it sounded like they were speaking a different language. And I have learned Spanish, a few words in Korean, and some things in French and still didn't understand it. So with that being said, I'm hoping that we can help you to better understand it with our guest for today. Hello, Eric. How are you?
Hello, I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. This is going to be an interesting one because I'm going to tell you the truth about what I thought SEO was, and then you can educate us on what it really is. But before we dive into today's topic, tell the studio audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I sense your frustration on the subject. So hopefully we can, shine some light on this. It's not as difficult as what people think it is, but then when you find out the work that goes into it and how you need to be on top of it, it's a lot of work. And but we can get into it in some detail. But background on me is I own a digital marketing agency in Los Angeles, in the South Bay part of Los Angeles, where I've grown up and I live and my business is there. Even though we have clients from around the world, I'm located there. And I show my social media and everything that goes with the agency as a case study for a small business that is hyper local. And so, people kind of get lost in, for example, Instagram, they want to have 1 million followers, and you really don't need that. You need to know your neighbor, people in your associations or in the chamber of commerce and so on. And social media is a great way to geo target and get in front of people and stay in front of existing clients.
I love that you started it out there because that was one of the things when we thought about, when we come into entrepreneurship and we're thinking about SEO, we think it is this huge thing. And we forgot that we can start right where we are. So speak to that a little bit, Eric, is, how we can start right where we are. We don't have to do anything really major, but there are some simple things that we can, do starting today.
Absolutely. So I'll use a case study that it was my first project, which back in the day was my mom. She was a real estate agent in the South Bay area. And so when we were optimizing her site, we were looking to see, keywords that had a higher search volume and lower competition and very relevant. And so that's kind of where you want to start is you want to go after let's say if it's a local business, you want to do, for example, if you do real estate agent, it's not the same as if you do real estate agent Santa Monica, or you do, like a particular uh, uh, geography. You can do a condo for sale and then the city. So you have to lock in on the keywords that are, that you would love to rank for. And if it's a hyper local business, like if it's a dry cleaning store, I don't think people are going to drive 50 miles to go to a dry cleaning store. They're going to stay within a 5-10 mile radius at most. And so when you identify where your clients are, you can go after the surrounding zip codes, the surrounding cities, and be able to rank for that. Because it's not like, I'm in Los Angeles. If I need a mechanic and a mechanic comes up in a search result that is from Texas, it does me no good.
Thank you for that, a reminder, because I think as entrepreneurs, that was one of those things that really kind of scares us when we think, oh, well, we're competing against everyone. Well, first of all, there's some significant things about you that make you not competition for anyone. But when we think about SEO, when we think about the e-commerce and the social media and the online market, yeah, it can be overwhelming at times that there are a lot of people out there that are doing similar things, if not the same thing. And let's not skirt past the fact that your client was your mom, and that just gave me all the feels.
It wasn't really a client. It was my first attempt at SEO, and it went well. It was a good exercise.
As long as it was a good thing. It didn't go bad.
You
Because
can't
that would
charge
be
your
a whole
mom.
right. That would be a whole other like episode.
You just can't charge your mom. You never look at your mom as a client.
Yeah, yeah. You some things you just gotta go.
It was one of those things where she's like, I don't want to do it, and I was like, I'm doing it, and she's like, I don't know what this internet thing is and whatever, and I got it, don't worry. So it was one of those conversations.
Good, 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 good. Now, as entrepreneurs within that first 5 years, when we think about SEO, what is going to be in rank? What should be the things that they have at number one, number two, number three, when we think about website, blogging, and social media?
Oh, rank those three.
Mm-hmm.
Well, usually where I start is I have the top, the first thing to lock in on is the website, to make sure that there's a good user experience, that you don't have broken links on the site, that it has a follow index as opposed to a no follow index. No follow basically means that Google goes in to spider your site, and the IT or the webmaster that build out the website, they put, hey, Google, you're not welcome to index my site. A lot of webmasters, they forget that, and you just can't get ranked, and you go crazy until you realize that they're supposed to do a no follow until they launch the site. Then they lift the no follow into a follow. You want to make sure that the load time on the site is decent. If it takes 10 seconds to load a page, you're just going to move on to the next website. You're not going to be spending a lot of time. You don't have the patience. We're a little bit spoiled with that. So user experience, I think you can start there. You need to create content to get ranked. You can't just build a website and not do anything to it for the next 10 years, like a couple of my friends do. It's the same location, same phone number. They don't blog, they don't change their service. It's an accounting service or a law firm or whatever, and they just figure, I have the website up, they should find me. And so you have to add content. I think your third out of the three was social media. Social media is very important for SEO because it's a different metric that Google looks at to determine how you're doing. So let's say, for example, last month I had 100 followers on social media. This month I have 90. Next month I have 80. It's not a good trend. If I'm posting once a month and no one is sharing, following, liking, commenting over and over again, and then it's not going to be a good sign to Google. And inversely, if you have the opposite, where you have growth in your following, you have people that are commenting, liking, sharing, etc., then that's going to be a positive metric. But I would say out of those three, in that way, because you have to make sure the website is indexable. You want to make sure that's optimizable. Then you want to start creating content. And when you create content, obviously you can create content that goes on your social media anyway. So that blog post you can put on your social media, on your Facebook, Twitter, etc.
I love that. Thank you for ranking that. Because a lot of times that's another thing is we kind of bump heads with, okay, so what should we do? What's more important? And the website, it's interesting that you said that, because with entrepreneurs coming into the business, no matter what industry they're in, people are told to do the website, and they pay $700 for this website that they can't do anything with. I raise my hand because, hi, my name is Altovise. Hi, Altovise. I paid $700 for a website. that I can't do anything with. And so I still have it, but I'm not even using it. I use a completely different website, one that I can personally go in and adjust different things and add things. And of course, I have my blog there and things like that. But starting out, I had the website and I was just like, yes, I have a website. So speak to that really quickly, Eric, about that whole, when you have the website, because I know you talked about the blog, which is a great one. I know something else that I learned over time, which I wish I would have known it in the beginning, but I did not, was as a podcaster, having my podcast have a page on my website is really valuable too. So speak to that value. What does that, what does that mean for us?
Sure. So let's say, for example, you have your website. Try to build out a website that is, not for programmers. And a lot of people, we use WordPress, Wix, like literally templates are there. You just fill in, picture goes here, the verbiage goes there, etc. And you can kind of, create your own content without having to deal with a programmer every time. It's always good to have someone on call if you need like a couple hours a month of, you run into some glitches or whatever. But for the most part, it's done so that regular people that are not tech savvy can go in there and upload their. It's almost like uploading onto Facebook. Where it says add picture here, add text here, etc. So as far as your podcast goes, what I do a lot of times is I take the podcast episode of the client and I upload it to YouTube. And then after that, I take that YouTube video and I create a blog post and I embed the video onto the blog post. And then I transcribe the words, the entire video. And that is something that you're hitting two of the bigger or the biggest search engines in Google and YouTube. So you got YouTube's attention, you have Google's attention, and you're creating content. Because a lot of times with clients, I do kind of like what we're doing here. I do like a podcast interview for a keyword that we're trying to rank for. And so because if I tell them write an article, there's no way the client's going to sit there and write a 1,000-word article or 500-word article. But this way, we can take 5 minutes because with keyword-oriented video, you don't need to talk 15 minutes about a particular subject. You want to talk 3 to 5 minutes at most, and then tell them here's if you're, let's say for example, I have a client that's a lawyer, you can talk about, okay, here's what happens when you don't pay your taxes, and here are your rights, and if you're interested, we're here for a free consult, etc. So it doesn't need to be 30 minutes to talk about that one subject. So that's a way to create content consistently for video, for blogging, for everything. So once you have that content, you have it on YouTube, you can take that video or that blog page, put it on your Twitter, your Facebook, your Google My Business. You can kind of distribute it throughout the internet and make sure that you're tagging the content correctly, so for Google to be able to index that content.
Okay, so Eric just dropped so many gems, guys. Like, these are the things that I wish I knew years ago when I first started the podcast, because I was trying to transcribe my audio on my own, not paying attention to SEO. Remember, we had a bad relationship in the beginning. And so I've learned more and more just the impact of that, the power of that. And even when you said, taking the video from YouTube and I was like, yeah, because that's one of the things that I started doing maybe within the last year and a half. And instead of doing the YouTube videos, I started doing the Spotify for that episode, the Spotify player, because you can bring it up right in WordPress. And absolutely amazing, especially with everything that was going on with Spotify. So
Yeah.
I learned. It only took me a couple years, but I learned. I'm glad I learned. Uh, Now, you'll have some people that'll listen to this episode and say, well, if this is something that interests me, and I'm thinking that this may be an industry that I want to work in, what would you say to them when you think about your journey from doing your mom's uh, business and helping her with her SEO to where you are right now? What would you say, for somebody that says, you know what, I think I might want to do this too?
I think that you have to, whatever work you do, you have to immerse yourself in it. So I've found that sometimes it's good to go work in an agency as a volunteer, to intern there. Um, you need to know how things are working. So it's difficult a lot of times to have like, if you're running one campaign, because SEO is a slow moving campaign. It's not like you run ads on Facebook. You spend $100 a day for 10 days and then you see what happened. It's not like that. And so a lot of times the work that you do in January might pay off in July. So it's not like Google's just going to give you the ranking and the free traffic. You have to earn it and you have to be consistent. And so if you take on projects that are already working and you can see, or take on some projects and do them for free. And and you have to be in it because it's changing so fast. Tech changes quickly. It's not those industries that it's slow moving, and so you have to commit yourself to it. And by the time you get you're marinated in it, and you're kind of in it. You're going to see that it's going to be a couple of years before you really understand the ins and outs of everything, social media and you know uh, Google ads and Facebook ads and search engine optimization and video optimization. There's a lot to kind of bring together to the table and hand to the client and say, okay, here's my work. But you need to start somewhere, and I would say to intern or to take on some clients and do them for free. I call them clients, but if you're doing it for free, it's not really a client. And show a proof of concept to be able to take to a potential client to say, here's what I did here, and I can do the same for you.
I love that. I know that that's very wise when it comes to any industry, is, taking that time and putting in the work, because you get to see the behind the scenes. You get to see sometimes the good, the bad, the ugly in a particular industry. And so I thank you for sharing that, Eric. Speakeasy Podcast listeners, you guys know that this is all for you, because without the Speakeasy listeners, there would be no Speakeasy Podcast. And so, Eric, let them know if they're interested in services, how to get those, and also where they can find you at online.
Sure. Well, you can go to my website, thisismysouthbay.com, and click on book now and book a 15-minute free consultation. I'll answer any questions that your listeners would have about search engine optimization strategies. We can run a quick competitive analysis and see what their competitors are ranking for, what they're ranking for. We'll screen share on Zoom, and I'll walk them through it. So that's a free consultation that they can sign up for. There's no catch to it.
Make sure y'all sign up for that. You guys know I'm all about taking action. Like, come here, listen in. If you did not write that down, hit the pause, go back, rewind, and write that down, because it's about taking action so that way you can elevate in life and in business. That's what it's all about. Guys, we want to make sure that you are living the best life that you possibly can. With that being said, I am your host, Altovise Pelzer, your voice manager. And until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.